Good afternoon and welcome to From Where I Sit. I'm your host, Dr. C. This is our introductory podcast. We are going to go live with this, but like I said, it's the introduction. And on the 20th, which is Martin Luther King Day, and of course, the inauguration of you know who. Uh, but we do want to give you the introduction, and I am your host, Dr. C. And let us move on to the next slide. Now, once again, this is the introductory video from where I sit. The things we're going to talk about in this video. It's going to be a short video, probably about 10, 12 minutes. We'll do the introduction. We'll talk about my life since I am the host, my career, accomplishments, mistakes, and the wisdom that I've gained from that. And last but not least, and probably most importantly, is the theme of the actual podcast. Now, of course, this is the introduction, so we'll keep moving. Now, also, please forgive me if there's any gaps in me advancing the slides and the actual audio. And by the way, I'm new at this. More than likely, we're going to change up the podcast to make it look more like a video rather than a slideshow with some audio. So we still got some time to play with it and everything. But like I said, we're just getting started with this. So let's talk about the origins of yours truly. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And of course, if anybody is familiar with the city of Pittsburgh, you know that the people in the city of Pittsburgh are crazy super Steeler fans, and I am no different than the rest of them. I am a rabid sports fan in general. I love sports, football, baseball, basketball, you name it, I love it. I also served in the United States Coast Guard for about 12 years. I'm fiercely patriotic, and probably more importantly than anything else is I am a lover of the arts and literature. I've been an artist for about 35 years. I started painting when I was in the Coast Guard, so I'll give you a little bit more information about that as we move forward, talking about art, law, politics, and of course, most importantly, the African American experience. By the way, I was introduced to the passions of law and politics in 1976 by my late great mother. Her name was Elizabeth, and I voted for Jimmy Carter for president of the United States. That was my very first vote, and very proud of the vote that I casted for, again, the late great Jimmy Carter, who just recently passed away, but not after he was able to reach his 100th birthday. Let's move on. Now, talk a little bit about my life. Now, there's a lot of information up here. I've been married twice. I have 6 children, ranging from age 18 being the youngest, and then my oldest daughter being in her 40s. I don't know exactly when her birthday is, but she's in her 40s. And once again, all of these 6 children that I have, they're all married except for my 18-year-old and my 3 youngest kids. None of them are married yet, but who knows? One of them might be getting married soon. We don't know. But I'm the proud father of 5 daughters and 1 son. One of my daughters is a senior in high school, who I'm very proud of. She is extremely bright, super smart. I expect really big things from her. My other girls, one's an English teacher. She teaches high school. Another daughter who is an administrative professional working in our wonderful university system. Another daughter in state government. And of course, I have another daughter who I'm also very proud of, who is a senior manager working in this great American economy of ours. Now, my son, on the other hand, he is serving in the United States Army. He's fourth generation serving. I'm very proud to say. By the way, he just recently, he's stationed in Poland right now. He just recently made the Polish newspaper, so I can't wait to talk to him about that. But yes, I'm very, very proud of all of my children. Of course, I have six outstanding grandchildren. And of course, I have five daughters and one son, but I also have five grandsons and one granddaughter. Very proud of my family. Moving on. Now, my career is widely varied. As you can see the picture right here, I was a welder for a really long time. I actually learned how to weld when I was in the Coast Guard. I learned how to do carpentry work, cabinet maker work, remodeling work. I learned how to do steel buildings. You know, like you see the skyscrapers out there. We learned how to do that. So I learned a lot in the Coast Guard. And when I got out the Coast Guard, spent about 20 years, some odd years, working as a welder and in the building trades. But at the same time, while I was doing that, I went back to school to get various degrees. And in my last 20 years, I was a college professor. And I also taught a public education as well. Most of the courses that I taught was marketing, international business, international relations, economics, finance, etc. You name it, I taught it. So I do have a lot of experience in a lot of these fields, which, by the way, we will talk a lot about in terms of the theme of this particular podcast. Moving on. Now, these are a list of my accomplishments. Got a Bachelor of Arts from Columbia College. Got a Master of Arts in Marketing from Webster University. Got a Master of Arts in International Relations also from Webster University. All three of these degrees was when I was living in St. Louis. Got a lot of teaching awards, Leadership Award from Intercontinental University, Faculty of the Year from the University of Phoenix, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't really like to talk too much about all the things that I was able to accomplish, but what I have listed up here is just a fraction of what I have been able to accomplish in my 66 years of living here on this planet. And I hope to share a lot of that experience and that wisdom in these particular fields with you, along with the theme of our particular podcast. So these are all the accomplishments. There are a lot more, but these are just a big list of some that I have so far. Moving on. Now, of course, I wanted to make sure that I put mistakes and wisdom up here because I think it's important for people to understand that in order to become wise, you will have to make mistakes. And I am no different. I made mistakes just like everybody else. But the most important thing about making mistakes is learning from those mistakes, and that's where wisdom comes in. Wisdom means nothing unless you are willing to share the wisdom with the rest of society at large, or a particular target or group in need of that wisdom. In turn, will benefit all that are open to it in any particular subgroup of society. It's really important to share your wisdom with the rest of the world and with the rest of your community. And in the long run, your community is better for it, and so are you for sharing that wisdom with others. Moving on. Now, of course, the theme of the podcast, which is really important. If you notice just from the pictures here, you can see the I Am a Man movement back in the late 60s. And of course, we have the Black Lives Matter from the 2020s and beyond here. Then these movements are not dissimilar. And they're not dissimilar because African Americans in this particular country have been struggling ever since we hit these shores, brought to this country as enslaved people by those from the European continent. And as you can see, we are going to use a historical context to make sense of the world around us today. The more things change, in my opinion, the more they stay the same. And this is the reason why we need to pay attention to history so that we can be better equipped to tackle the issues and problems that the African American community has in this country in order for us to move forward and to not only survive but thrive. The historical context will teach us not only the lessons we need to survive, but also to thrive in the time of Trump. And I really want to emphasize in the time of Trump because right now, if you have been paying attention, the African American community and other people of color in this country are going to be under threat from the Trump administration and Project 2025. We are going to talk about that a lot. No topic is going to be unique to the Black experience. No topic will be spared, excuse me. We will, every topic will be critiqued or exposed, albeit advantageous or detrimental to us as a people. This is where history comes in, so we're going to talk about that a lot. Our topics will range from jobs, financial empowerment, to social issues, including crime and punishment. And as you can see right here, no topic will not be uncovered. We are going to try and cover every topic that we possibly can. And by the way, as we progress forward with this particular podcast, we're going to ask you to call in. We're going to have you to ask us questions. I want this podcast to just not me just teaching and preaching to you. I want it to be interactive. So keep that in mind as we move forward from week to week. And so pretty much that is the introduction. There is one last thing I want to leave with you before we sign off, and that will be on our next slide, which will be a wrap-up slide. So as you can see, I want to thank you for tuning in for our introductory video. I'm going to be your host, Dr. C, and then I want to leave you with one last thing that I think is very important. The Europeans, the descendants of Europeans that live in this country, I don't want to use white people because, I just don't want to do that. They are descendants of Europe, European cultures and countries, and so that's who lives here. But I will say this. I am a student of history, and I think history has a lot to teach us. And the one thing that I've learned from history, from all of the times that, from the time that African Americans hit these shores back in the 1600s up until now, there is nothing that we as African Americans are ever going to be able to do in order to try and fix descendants of the European culture here in this country. We're never going to be able to do that. These people are going to be responsible for fixing themselves. And when I say fixing themselves, being able to interact with other people of color in this country in a way that is respectful, that is equal, that is diverse. They keep talking about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not a dirty word, y'all. It is something that all of us should strive to do in this particular country. But in the meantime, it is up to African Americans to not only, you know, I don't want to say fix ourselves, but in order for us to grow, it is up to African Americans to look after each other, to lift up each other. And that is going to be the focus of this particular podcast. We're going to use a, um, a historical point of view to discuss and give you the tools you need in order to tackle the issues of today in the age of Trump and beyond. Thank you for tuning in. Our next video is going to hit January 20th, which is Martin Luther King Day, and of course it is the inauguration of Mr. Trump. So hopefully you'll join us, and as usual, at the end of each one of these videos, I'm going to ask you to subscribe so that we can continue to give you this great content as we progress through this podcast from where I sit. Thank you for tuning in.